The 2025 MotoGP season has barely ended, yet the paddock refuses to sit still. As the floodlights of Valencia fade and the final echoes of celebrations settle, another story quietly rises beneath the surface, one that stretches far beyond trophies, farewells, and the final race of the year. It is the story of Yamaha's most dramatic technical shift in 2 decades, a complete philosophical reset, and a rider stepping into MotoGP with both excitement and a surprising sense of heartbreak. Toprak Razgatlioglu, a 3-time World Superbike champion and one of the most instinctive riders of his generation, is preparing for the biggest change of his career. But behind the headlines, the truth of his transition is far more emotional, far more complex, and far more significant than a simple move from one paddock to another. MotoGP itself is undergoing a transformation. Regulations are tightening, aerodynamics are becoming more extreme, and factories are searching for every last fragment of torque, traction, and top-end speed. The Premier class is shifting into a new era, one defined by sharper machines, more aggressive philosophies, and development paths that resemble high-end laboratories more than traditional race garages. And in the middle of this evolution stands Yamaha, a brand that once dominated through balance, finesse, and corner speed mastery, now facing the most profound identity shift of its modern life. For the first time since 1992, Yamaha is abandoning the inline-four engine, the same configuration that carried Valentino Rossi, Jorge Lorenzo, and Fabio Quartararo to championships, the same design that shaped the M1 into a bike built on surgical precision and stability, the same power unit that defined Yamaha's very soul in MotoGP. Replacing it is a full-commitment V4, an architecture Yamaha once resisted but now embraces as an absolute necessity for survival. Takahiro Sumi summarized the shift with rare clarity. The inline-four philosophy had reached its natural limit. Modern MotoGP demands brutal acceleration, deep-stroke torque, and explosive straight-line speed, areas where the V4 has reigned supreme for years. MotoGP evolves, Sumi said, and we must evolve with it. Yamaha can no longer rely on corner speed alone. Not when Ducati has built an empire of horsepower and aerodynamics, not when Aprilia continues to rise, not when KTM refuses to slow down. The move to a V4 is more than an engineering choice, it is an existential decision. But as bold as the decision is, the early stages have been difficult. Augusto Fernandez, acting as Yamaha's primary V4 development rider throughout the season, entered Valencia with optimism, but left with growing concern. His qualifying crash, caused by the front locking under heavy braking, was a warning sign. His sprint required careful management of a front tire he simply didn't trust, and across the entire weekend, his feedback remained consistent. The front of the Yamaha V4 lacks load, stability, and confident feel. "I don't feel comfortable with the front. Something is missing," he explained. Importantly, Yamaha has not yet unleashed the engine's full power. The bike runs deliberately reduced performance, held back until the 2026 shakedown. Even Fernandez confirmed that the current version is far from race-ready. Still, Yamaha insists they finally have direction, a roadmap, a development cycle, and a clearer understanding of what must change before next season's true V4 emerges. For the first time since 2020, there is cautious but genuine belief that a rebuilt Yamaha might rise again. Yet while engineers and test riders shape the machine, there is another story shaping Yamaha's future, the arrival of Toprak Razgatlioglu. When he walked into the Valencia paddock for his first official test preparations, the reaction was immediate. The Turkish superstar carries a resume that demands attention. 78 wins, 173 podiums, 3 World Superbike champions, and a reputation for outrageous braking mastery. Fans have spent years imagining how his aggressive style would translate to a MotoGP prototype. But what Yamaha noticed was not merely his speed, it was his maturity. Paolo Pavioso, who worked with Toprak during his Yamaha WSBK years, was stunned by the evolution. He has matured significantly, Pavioso explained. Toprak no longer speaks only with emotion, instinct, and raw talent. He communicates with clarity, precision, and an engineer's attention to detail. During the Aragon test, he delivered a 30-minute technical debrief that stunned the room. He broke down traction behavior, torque delivery, engine braking, electronics, and chassis dynamics with calm control. When he noticed how many Yamaha staff members were listening, he asked whether the meeting was arranged specifically for him. In many ways, it was. Yamaha is not just hearing his feedback, they are anchoring their next era to it. Toprak's arrival also caught the attention of Nicolo Bulega, his World Superbike rival and newly promoted MotoGP rider. After replacing Marc Marquez in the Ducati final races, Bulega spoke openly about the steep challenge of adapting to Michelin's front tire. "We are struggling a little bit on the front," he admitted. "You have to ride differently." Toprak's traditional strengths, deep braking, sharp corner entry, fearless edge-of-the-tire commitment, do not automatically transfer to Michelin's unique demands. But both riders agreed the adaptation is manageable. Once Toprak understands the limits, those strengths could become weapons. Yet, amidst all the excitement, Toprak revealed something unexpected, something deeply emotional. After winning his third World Superbike title, he admitted he felt a little bit sad about leaving the paddock that shaped him. Behind his fierce riding style and fearless battles, there is a rider deeply connected to the world that he's stepping away from. "I feel like I was born in the Superbike paddock," he said. "I know everyone." For 8 seasons, WSBK was his home, the place where he grew up, laughed, learned, and found family. Every weekend brought familiarity. Mechanics greeting him, riders stopping to talk, staff celebrating even the smallest victories. "When I enter the paddock," he said softly, "I'm always talking with someone." MotoGP offers speed, prestige, and global attention, but it cannot immediately replace that sense of belonging. And then came the most powerful revelation. His move to MotoGP is not simply a professional step, it is the fulfillment of his father's dream. His father passed away before Toprak ever reached WSBK, never witnessing a single victory, podium, or championship. The transition to MotoGP carries his memory, his hopes, and the weight of a wish Toprak always intended to honor. It is a dream realized, and a goodbye delivered at the same time. This is what makes Toprak's move bittersweet. MotoGP offers opportunity, but also uncertainty. Yamaha's V4 remains a work in progress. Fernandez's comments are honest reminders that the bike is missing something. And Toprak is moving from a world where he was the king, a 3-time champion, to a class where he must learn everything again. At 29, he still has many competitive years ahead, and he did not rule out a return to World Superbike someday. That championship remains the place where he feels most at home, and the possibility of a future comeback remains open. But for now, MotoGP will test him. It will push him. It will redefine him. And Yamaha, undergoing its greatest transformation in years, hopes he may become the rider who guides the team into its next era. To understand why this race weekend carried so much weight, you have to look at the deeper tension running through the paddock long before lights out. Every rider knew this circuit punishes hesitation and rewards those willing to dance on the edge of grip. And throughout practice, that edge seemed thinner than usual. Track temperatures shifted from session to session, catching even seasoned riders off guard. Teams scrambled through setup changes, engineers hovered over telemetry screens, and mechanics worked with the urgency of a title decider, even though the season is still young. As expectations tightened, pressure began to show in subtle ways. Quiet moments in the garage, riders sitting longer than usual before putting on their helmets, and comments during media debriefs that hinted at nerves beneath calm expressions. All of these small details set the stage for the intensity that unfolded on race day. When the riders rolled onto the grid, you could almost feel the tension settle over the circuit like a long shadow. The front row knew they had the pace, but not necessarily the rhythm. Those behind them sensed an opportunity, especially the riders who tend to come alive during the opening laps. And in MotoGP, those early moments can define everything that follows. As the lights went out, the field launched forward with a burst of controlled chaos. Every rider fought to carve out space, to protect their line, to read the movements of the bikes around them. It was in those first few seconds that the tone of the race was set, a tone that would later magnify the significance of the incident, the reactions, and the post-race debate. What made this moment especially impactful was not just what happened on the track, but the ripple effect that followed. You could sense the emotional weight on the riders involved, frustration for some, disappointment for others, and a cold, analytical determination from those who saw opportunity in the aftermath. Crew chiefs